When people talk about Africa's economy, most of the things we hear is about raw exports, their minerals or foreign support. But after living here, traveling and meeting real builders, I came to understand that the biggest shift isn't happening with raw goods anymore, and it's rather about how people are solving real problems quietly and that at a scale. My name is Marvin, and 2 years ago I moved from Germany to Nairobi in Kenya, and ever since I've been building life, exploring businesses and figuring out what really shapes the future of the African continent. For decades, Africa's economic model was very simple. They exported raw goods, imported finished products, and they stayed dependent on the Western countries. But now, across the continent, entrepreneurs and new builders are flipping the script entirely. They aren't waiting for the headlines to catch up. They are solving long existing African problems quietly and that at a scale. And seeing things like this firsthand changed the way I think about business on the African continent. And therefore I want to introduce you to businesses that are solving long existing problems on the African continent quietly, on large scales, and in a very unique way. And therefore I want to introduce you as the first one to LifeBank. While most people saw Africa's healthcare struggles, LifeBank saw a logistical problem and they solved it. What LifeBank does is very simple. They simply deliver essential medical supplies like vaccines, oxygen, blood, and other essential supplies to hospitals where it's very difficult to reach them. And they do whatever is necessary to do that. So they use drones, they use boats, they use motorbikes, whatever they need to deliver the goods where they are actually needed. And this even in Kenya, Nigeria and Ethiopia. This solves a big problem for people in rural areas where they have less access to medical supply and where it sometimes can take multiple hours to get to a destination because they don't have proper roads, or they just had a bad rain the other day, so their streets are completely flooded, and they can simply deliver these things and the essential goods with drones or on other ways that are not that conventional. Their numbers are unreal. They saved over 20,000 lives, delivered supply to over 500 hospitals across these 3 countries. And what we can see here is that simply the future in this case wasn't digital. It's mainly delivering what's needed where it's needed at the right time. The next business I want to talk about is a business that also didn't invent the wheel completely new. They simply are focusing on giving people the basic needs. And this company is called Water Access Rwanda. Where others saw scarcity, Water Access Rwanda saw a way of creating life. What they do is also quite simple. They simply build durable water access in rural communities in Rwanda. They hire the local youth of the rural area where they build their systems and give them therefore ownership and someone to take care of it, and they employ people in the rural areas as well. And the results are that they have sold already over 320 million liters of water. They gave 180,000 people access to water, and they employed over 100 people already in these rural areas. You see, a simple thing like just providing access to water, either it's for businesses or for drinking water, makes life in these rural regions much easier, more affordable, safer, and give people a new purpose, and they create jobs. And this means, once again, they didn't reinvent the wheel, they simply focused on basic needs like water. The next business I want to talk about is Coldups. It's a Nigerian company that supports businesses and farmers, especially in this case, to storage their goods. Coldups didn't chase the tech hype, they built solar-powered cold rooms to fight hunger. What they do is that they simply offer a pay-as-you-store storage for farmers. And I heard things like this many times, that some farmers here in Kenya, for instance, because they don't have the right customers right away when they farm their goods, that a lot of their products spoil. Therefore, what this project did is they saved already over 50 tons of food spoilage. They give farmers more income, they save food from going to waste, and they can feed through this many more people. It's an affordable way for farmers to earn more income and to supply their products to more people. What we can take from this example is that sometimes the biggest innovation is just give people a storage for their tomatoes. These are just 3 examples of businesses that are not reinventing the wheel, that simply provide the basic needs to people in rural areas or on the grounds in the African countries. I saw businesses turning waste into energy. I saw a business building out of waste bricks to build construction materials. I saw businesses and innovators that are recycling plastic bottles back into fuel. I saw many different things, and I think this is just the beginning of solving the real problems of the African continent's people. This isn't charity, this isn't hype, it's simply building out the main infrastructure and solving the problems people face on an every single day basis. And these builders are making the African continent less and less dependent, and this one borehole, one fridge, one app, one whatever it is at a time. It also made me rethink the way I see business here on the African continent. As I mentioned in one of my videos before, that when I came to Kenya, I was also trying to bring something very innovative. I was trying to see what tech solutions would work here on the ground. But now, after observing so many examples and also bigger examples where these new builders are following the footsteps of the big ones that built simply cement factories, that built flour milling factories, that built basically things that everyday people need on an every single day basis, I started to understand that maybe the problems we have to solve here on the continent are a little bit different from the things I was used to from the West. It's not about innovation, it's just about how can simple problems can be solved in this on a scale for every single person here on the ground. To give them what actually matters to them, like water access, like just sugar access, that they don't have to use imported products anymore that are just way too expensive, or just the cold storage rooms like in one of the examples we just talked about now, delivering medical supply where people have rarely access to it. It's just so simple that when I came here first, I wasn't even thinking about things like this because I didn't know how the things on the ground actually look like. So I'm very grateful for getting all these insights into all these different businesses and can observe all these stories that I can and we can create more out of this while analyzing them. And of course, it's not that easy as I'm explaining it right now here to solve all these giant problems with water, with food, with healthcare, with whatever it is. It's not that simple because oftentimes you need the right connections. Maybe you need some money, maybe you don't, to start off with things like this. And there's also problems oftentimes like infrastructure, there's different things. But one thing I learned from the African entrepreneurs here is that they are not waiting for the infrastructure to be built, that they are there to build the infrastructure out, and then the government or people will follow to give them more support on this. And even if not, they are ready to build everything themselves. So you don't have to be a billionaire, you just have to start solving problems that everyday people have. And if you're serious about building, I think the time is right now, especially here on the African continent. Thank you so much for watching. Also, let me down below in the comments some other interesting, unique businesses you want me to talk about and you want me to do a bit further research on. And I appreciate you and see you in the next one.